She was running. Her lungs burned with every desperate breath, but she couldn't stop. Everyone around her was running, a stampede of terror flowing through the streets like a flood. Buildings collapsed into themselves, flames licking at the sky. Uniformed men descended on unarmed citizens, batons cracking against flesh and bone. Bombs shattered the air, gunshots rang out from every direction, echoing off concrete and chaos. This was hell on earth. Her feet began to drag, each step feeling like she was wading through quicksand. Her legs screamed for mercy. She needed to stop. She had to stop. She doubled over, ignoring the panicked voices that screamed at her to keep moving, warning her that stopping meant death. But she couldn't take another step. Her body refused. She gasped for air that wouldn't come fast enough. That's when she saw it, a vehicle cutting through the smoke. Her heart leapt. Hope, precious and fragile, sparked to life in her chest. It wasn't a military vehicle. She could beg whoever was inside for help, for safety, for life. As the jeep drew closer, she made out 3 figures inside, 2 men and a woman. Closer still, and recognition hit her like lightning. Sister Jane, Brother Luke, and Brother Kenneth was at the wheel. She waved, her arms flailing wildly. She screamed their names until her throat was raw. They saw her. Thank God they saw her. They gestured for her to wait, turning the vehicle toward her. Tears poured down her face. Prayers were still answered, even in hell. But then, right there, right in front of the jeep, the ground began to bubble. A cyclone formed out of nothing, sand swirling upward like the earth itself was opening its mouth to swallow them whole. The jeep lurched forward, then began to sink. Kenneth fought the wheel with everything he had, his arms straining, muscles bulging, but it was useless. Jane screamed from the passenger seat, her hands pounding against the glass. Luke struggled in the back, reaching for anything that might save him. The quicksand pulled them down, swallowing the vehicle inch by terrible inch. And then they were gone. Just like that. The cyclone stopped, and the sand settled as if nothing had happened. Sandra sat there, her mouth hanging open, unable to process what she'd just witnessed. Her friends, gone. Then the tears came. Not gentle tears, but violent, body-shaking sobs that tore through her chest. A crushing sense of loss descended on her like a physical weight, pressing down until she couldn't breathe. She'd lost something. She'd lost everything. She couldn't even name what was gone, but the emptiness was absolute. A hand grabbed her arm, yanking her from the ground. She had no strength left to resist. She let herself be pulled up, dragged along like a rag doll. Through her tears, she heard a voice snap at her. "Pull yourself together!" Her vision cleared enough to see a woman, strong, fierce, and somehow familiar, though Sandra couldn't place her face. The woman was carrying her. Actually carrying her, with Sandra's feet dangling above the ground as they flew across the broken landscape. "Where are we going?" Sandra managed to choke out. "To safety," the woman replied curtly. "What were you thinking, putting yourself in danger like that?" The woman's voice was sharp with anger. Sandra's heart stuttered. "Where is safety? Can I go home?" The woman's response came as a question that froze Sandra's blood. "Where is home?" Sandra opened her mouth to answer, but no words came. She didn't know. How could she not know where home was? She tried a different approach. "What's going on? Why are we running?" "There's a war." "A war?" Sandra nearly shouted. "Please, put me down, I can walk." "You can't walk in a time like this," the woman said firmly. "You must keep running, or they'll catch you." "They? Who's they?" "The government." Sandra's mind reeled. "We're running from the government? You said we're at war." She trailed off, the pieces clicking together in a way that made no sense. "With our government?" The woman nodded grimly. "You mean our own government is fighting us?" Another nod. "So what do? We fight back, right?" "Our people are fighting," the woman confirmed. That sounded hopeful at least. "Who's winning?" The woman's expression darkened. "Both sides are losing." Without warning, she stopped dead in her tracks. Sandra crashed face first into the sand, the impact knocking the wind from her lungs. She dragged herself up, spitting out grit and furiously brushing sand from her clothes and hair. This woman, whoever she was, needed some serious lessons in how to treat people. The audacity! The absolute... Her thoughts died as she saw what lay ahead. The sand. It was bubbling again. And then she remembered. The cyclone. The jeep. Her friends being swallowed alive. Fear wrapped around her throat like a vice. "We need to turn back!" she screamed, grabbing at the woman's arm. "We need to turn back, now!" "Wait!" Sandra lost her composure completely. "Wait for what? I'm telling you, that thing right there is death. I watched an identical one swallow my friends. We have to go." "Wait!" Sandra tugged at her with all her strength, trying to drag her away from the death trap ahead. But the woman didn't budge, not even an inch. She was as immovable as steel, her eyes locked on the bubbling sand with an unnatural focus. Something was very, very wrong. Sandra looked around desperately, searching for anyone who could help, but the landscape stretched empty in every direction. A horrifying thought crept into her mind like poison. What if they were the only ones left? What if everyone else was already dead? No, that couldn't be true. It couldn't. She turned back to her mysterious companion, ready to plead again, but the words died on her lips. The sand wasn't just bubbling anymore. It was erupting. Shooting outward instead of pulling inward, like a volcano exploding from the Earth's core. And something was rising from it. The jeep. Kenneth sat behind the wheel, looking like some kind of superhero, completely unfazed by the fact that he'd just been pulled from the grave. The vehicle shot into the air like a bullet, suspended for a moment against the smoke-filled sky. Then it began to spin. Once, twice. 3 perfect somersaults, graceful as a dancer, despite the tons of metal and glass. For a moment, it hung there, suspended in impossible beauty. Then it dropped. Like a bag of cement, it plummeted and crashed into the ground just inches from where Sandra stood, the impact sending a shockwave of dust and debris that nearly knocked her off her feet. Sandra screamed at the universe, at God, at whatever force was toying with her. "What is happening?" She blinked, and suddenly, impossibly, she was inside the jeep. She had no memory of moving, no memory of opening a door or climbing in. One moment she was standing outside, and the next she was wedged in the back seat. She was crushed between Luke on one side and the mystery woman on the other, barely able to breathe from how tightly they were packed together. Kenneth was racing down the road with a wild, gleeful expression, his hands gripping the wheel like he was on the ride of his life. Jane sat beside him, arms raised in the air, cheering like they'd just won the lottery. Sandra's mind tried to make sense of it. Minutes ago, she'd been running for her life, bullets and bombs turning the city into a war zone. Moments before that, she'd watched these 3 people, these exact people sitting in this vehicle with her right now, get swallowed by quicksand. She'd watched them die. But now? Now the dead were alive. Now they were driving through hell like it was a Sunday afternoon joyride. Now the world had apparently decided that logic and reason were optional. She couldn't take it anymore. Every nerve in her body screamed that this was wrong. All of it. Everything. She lifted her voice and yelled with everything she had left. "Where the hell am I?" All 4 of them turned to face her in perfect unison, identical grins spreading across their faces, like they were sharing some cosmic joke she wasn't in on. Their voices came together in a chorus that seemed to echo from somewhere beyond reality itself. "You are in Nigeria, where everything is possible."